Good stuff. Your next comic, I'm really glad that he's here. Make it really loud, everybody, for Noah Linsk.
I'll send you an invite. You gon' need you a pass. That's the code that we live by.
So my therapist asked me if I've been having any paranoid thoughts lately. Yeah, as if I'm going to tell that CIA son of a bitch anything. I walked into a restaurant in downtown Portland, and the guy behind the counter told me that it is a credit card only establishment. He says they don't take cash because he said they've been robbed so many times that they decided the easiest thing to do is just not to take cash anymore. So it's a credit card only establishment. So all I got was his wallet. This fucking city is going to hell, I tell you. No, man. I went to a potluck recently, and the theme of the potluck was bring a delicacy from wherever you're from. And I'm from Michigan, so I brought a big jar of water that was contaminated with lead. And I came out here a couple of years ago. I came out here a couple of years ago when Kate Brown was the governor, and people out here did not like Kate Brown. Like, man, they would tell you didn't even ask, and they'd be like, "Fuck Kate Brown." All right. Hey, people really like to complain about her, but I'm gonna be honest, not a one of you tried to kidnap her. You know, I don't know. I'm not that impressed. You know, I feel like if you're really committed to the bit, you know, somebody would have at least made an effort. I saw this guy with a tattoo on his bicep that read Leviticus 18:22. Which is the verse which reads, "You shall not lie with a man as you would with a woman, for that is despicable." And I thought to myself, man, getting a tattoo about gay sex has got to be about the gayest thing a person can possibly do. But I'm thinking I'm going to get a tattoo. It's going to be Leviticus 19:28, which is the verse I had to... The other one was 18:22. I think I said 18:28. Listen, we're not biblical scholars. 19:28, the verse which reads, "You shall not cut your flesh for the dead or make any tattoo marks upon your body. I am the Lord!" That last part is in all caps, which is why I had to say it that way. God is such a fucking boomer, just putting random parts of his sentences in all caps like that. Like, feedback for God, I guess. I don't know. I got pulled over on my way to work the other day. And the cop is like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "I'm on my way to work." And he goes, "Oh man, nobody wants to work anymore." He says to me, "Nobody wants to work anymore." And I said to him, "Well, you could get a real job." I didn't say that. Obviously, I didn't say that. No, I gave him the white people's secret handshake and he let me go. And for those of you who are wondering what the white people's secret handshake is, it's when one person goes for a handshake and the other person goes for a fist bump, and you try to turn it into a high five, but you end up settling for a one-armed hug. Yeah. Do you think Jonah ever felt like a man trapped in a whale's body? I'm Jewish, which I always have to say that I'm Jewish because I don't look super Jewish, so I have to say it before I do any Jewish material, you know? Frankly, it makes the Bible stuff a little bit less off-putting as well. But I have to announce it before I can do the material. I mean, the alternative is to just go the Tucker Carlson route and say international bankers, you know? Like, you ever you're hanging out with your international banker friends and... Like, you're trying to go out to dinner, but, like, you can't agree on a place because everyone's got 6 different dietary restrictions, you know? Or, like, have you ever noticed how international bankers will put way too much sugar in the Manischewitz? And I should explain this one for the Gentiles in the room. Manischewitz is a specific brand of the blood of Christian babies. And it's much too sweet. It's really... I would say the main issue with that, I'm a little bit concerned about the first 2 guys in the Superman spotting sequence. By that I mean first the guy who goes, "Look, up in the sky, it's a bird!" Because, like, Metropolis is a city, you know? He's got to be doing that all day. It's got to... It's got to be like, look, up in the sky, it's a bird. Look, up in the sky, it's another bird. But like a bird guy alone will not fully ruin your public transportation experience. No. That is a job for plane guy. And plane guy, we all know plane guy. Plane guy is the guy who sees the guy yelling at birds and says, nah, I can't stand for this. I gotta correct bird guy. I gotta let bird guy know what's what. He says, you idiot, that's not a bird, it's a plane. First of all, let him be wrong, you know? And then to be wrong yourself, you know, when Superman guy comes in. And if you're Superman guy, by the way, and you see Superman flying around, yeah, you should let people know. You know, buildings are about to start falling on their heads. Superman guy is a hero. But the problem is, plane guy thinks he's Superman guy. Plane guy will never not believe that he is Superman guy. And I know this because, and I didn't want to admit this, but I am myself a recovering plane guy. I say recovering because I'm in recovery, you know? Some part of me will always be a plane guy, and I accept that. But you know, I take it one day at a time. I got my 30-day chip. I still get tested sometimes. The other day, I was having a conversation about how after FDR died in the middle of his 4th term, they instituted term limits on presidents. And the guy I was talking to said to me, actually, that was Teddy Roosevelt. And I felt it in my chest, this welling up, this, it's a plane! But I didn't. I allowed him to be wrong. I was so proud of myself. I mean, thank you. I mean, technically what I said was, well, you're welcome to look it up. Which is maybe less personal growth so much as it is just like finally learning a little bit of the Pacific Northwest passive aggression, you know? But like the first step is admitting you have a problem. So I think I'm doing well. And people out here in Oregon will talk about their mental health the way that like truck guys talk about the features on their trucks, you know? They'd be like, I got the anxiety lifted. Catalytic self-esteem converter got stolen the week I moved to Portland, so now it only runs on external validation. This over here, this is something my gym teacher did to me in 7th grade. They only made 8 of these that we know about for sure. And I don't know, I have really bad self-talk sometimes, which I think is probably because I'm such a fucking piece of shit. That's not a joke that's made better by you awing it, man. Thank you, woo. Yes, that's a woo joke. That's a woo, thank you. I'm in a relationship now, which is good for me. Being single was not good for me. Being on Tinder, my Tinder bio read, IDK, just looking for someone to validate my personhood by finding me sexually attractive, but like in a well-adjusted way. And for some idea of how well Tinder was going for me, I matched with this woman on Tinder who said, hey, I'm gonna bring some Magic the Gathering cards on our Tinder date, and we can like play some Magic and get a coffee. And I was like, yeah, do it. And like I should explain why that's bad, is that Magic the Gathering is the heroine of nerd shit. So I know I am gonna get addicted right away. It is gonna eat up most of my money, and it is gonna be mostly done in cramped rooms full of unwashed men. But because I was so lonely, I was fine with that. So understand, this is like if one of you was to match with someone on Tinder and she was to be like, hey, I'm gonna bring some heroin on our Tinder date and we can just like, you know, get a coffee and shoot up together. And they're like, yeah, go for it, you know? that's the situation that I was in. But fortunately, she ghosted me. Might have saved my life. I tell ya, because like dating around here is really hard, especially because like I don't mean to overshare, but I am into some kinkier stuff sexually. I like to go home with a girl, tie her to the bed, blindfold her, put her laptop in my backpack, leave. It's tough, man. I tell ya, yeah, man. Let's see here. But what I really came here to talk to you guys today about, is Job. The story of Job. Job was a Bible guy. He lived in a Bible time, and Job was a rich guy. He owned a variety of silverware and wives and stuff like that. But like one day, God and the devil are, I guess, just hanging out. And the story doesn't specify that they were drinking, but the story does not specify that they were not drinking. And based on what happens next in the story, we'll let you guys be the judge of whether or not they were drinking. Because essentially what happens is the devil says to, I guess, his buddy, God, it's like, hey, God, what would be really funny is if you see that guy Job, but what if you just fucking ruined his life? And God's like, that's hilarious. I love it. Let's do it. Let's fucking pull the trigger on this one. And he rains down fireballs and blows up all of Job's houses, kills his whole family, gives him boils all over his body. And his friends come up to Job after this. They're like, Job, you got to be done with the whole God thing now, right? And Job's like, no, I'm gonna stick with God. I'm gonna keep the Sabbath. And it's one of these stories where it's kind of weird to figure out what this is even about, because like people will tell you this is like a story about faith, but it kind of feels like a story of a time that God was not entirely cool. But what I like about it so much, though, is that it like harkens back to a time in human history when life was so ubiquitously terrible that you could have your entire life destroyed in a day, and your only response would be, well, TGIF, am I right? Don't worry, he got a bunch of new wives after, so no harm, no foul. It's a totally different society. I don't have the number available to me right now, but there's a verse in Deuteronomy that talks about if two men are fighting and one of the wives of one of the men runs up and grabs the other guy by the balls to give her husband an advantage in the fight, that you're supposed to cut her hand off. And how different is it now, right? Because we're all on her side. I mean, that is some ride or die shit right there. I mean, good for her, But also, do we feel like this was like a one-off thing? Or do we feel like this was, I mean, like if they were doing it, it had to be like a systemic thing. Do we feel like this was like happening all over the place? Or was there like one woman who was just like doing it so often that it was becoming an issue? That all of these guys had together, they're like, guys, what are we going to do about ball grabbing Sally? Anyway, that's about to be my time. My phone is spying on me all the time. I hate it. I tell you, it's getting to the point where I can't even make an innocent joke about bombing a federal building without getting these targeted ads for ammonium nitrate.
Clicks going keep grinding, keep moving, locking the town, the freeway in the place to be.
Give it up for Noah Linsk, everybody.